Good evening, everyone. Ian Patrick here, and tonight we are reviewing a film that I'm surprised I haven't seen, and I'm sure you all will be shocked to hear that I haven't seen because it's a pretty well known classic. Tonight's review is of 1949's The Heiress, and it is a period drama romance film, and it was created by Paramount Pictures and directed by the great William Wyler. Now, this film stars Olivia de Havilland, and I'm sure you all can figure out that I'm a big fan of Olivia de Havilland simply because I love this guy so much, and they were such a great duo together. And in fact, it's rumored, and I've read that Errol Flynn was almost in this movie as Morris Townsend's character. And I think he would have been great for that because he was a scoundrel in real life. So I think he would have been good for that. But instead, we got Montgomery Clift, and he did a pretty good job in this as well. Although I know that Montgomery Clift absolutely hated how he did in this. He didn't like his acting in this movie. And I believe it was his second film at the time. And we also have Ralph Richardson in this. He played Dr. Sloper, which was Olivia de Havilland's father in it, Catherine's dad, and Miriam Hopkins, who sort of plays this ditzy aunt. She plays Lavinia. Doesn't really understand what's going on, not kind of clueless of what's going on. And interestingly, this was her first film in 5 years, so she had taken a 5-year break from acting. Now, as I said, this is a period drama romance film, which is right up my alley. You all know I've reviewed a lot of these types of pictures. It takes place in 1850s in Washington Square. And Catherine, she is an heiress, hence the title. She's an heiress to her father. She's an only child, and she's set to inherit quite a fortune upon his death. Now, the thing about Catherine is that she is not the brightest fish in the sea. In fact, she's extremely sweet. She's extremely kind and has that Olivia de Havilland smile with the big eyes, and you love her in it. She's very innocent, and but she's not very intelligent, and she's unable to start or even keep a conversation with people. But she is good at one thing. She's very good at knitting. In fact, the movie starts out with an intricate design that says the heiress, that we can believe that Catherine knitted, and we see her knitting a lot throughout the film. She's I think spinster is the word. So the movie really picks up. We kind of can figure that she's not the greatest. Her dad doesn't really think the highest of her. In fact, the mother is gone. We can later kind of assume that the mother may have passed away giving birth to Elizabeth, to Catherine, and that's why that maybe he has sort of animosity towards his daughter. But the movie picks up when Catherine goes with her father, Dr. Sloper, to a wedding party. And when they're at the party, Catherine, she's kind of clueless, got that smile, but we can sense that she's sort of looking to have some sort of fun because all the young people around her are dancing and having fun. And then out of nowhere, we see this dark-haired, young, handsome-looking guy come out of nowhere. And after she had been sort of pushed aside by another guy, and she was feeling sad about that, he offers to dance with her. In fact, he says, "Can you dance with me on the next one? How about the one after that?" So clearly he's interested in her, and she's dumbfounded. She's got that nervous smile with him now. And in fact, everyone is kind of like, what's going on? And this young man is Morris Townsend, who is Montgomery Clift. And I went into this movie blind. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know what Montgomery Clift's character was going to be like. I thought, oh, this is going to be your typical, romance, classic drama. Maybe he'll be a great guy. But I was completely wrong. right, or at this point I wasn't sure, because I didn't realize that maybe he could be a gold digger, but her father, Dr. Sloper, definitely picks up on it right away. What's this young guy seeing my daughter? Which is kind of awful that he thinks that way, but it is what it is. And so he's flirty with her right away. We can tell he's trying real hard to get with her, and he wants to visit with her again. So after the wedding, he goes over to their house, and basically immediately confesses his love to Catherine, and she's scared, as someone who's never had a boyfriend or a love before would be. So she's startled and sort of scared by it, because she's never felt these emotions before, and here's this young, good-looking guy is coming so strongly onto her, and he confesses his love, wants to see her again, and but the doctor, he knows what's going on, and he talks about this with Lavinia, but the aunt is so clueless. She believes in Morris's love and wants to believe, and so does Catherine. Catherine believes that he really loves her, but it's far from the truth. So eventually Morris, he does propose to Catherine just very fast all of a sudden, and she accepts. But when she tells Dr. Slope, when he asks Dr. Sloper, he doesn't ask beforehand, which is what he should have done, but he basically tells him, look, I proposed to Catherine, your daughter. Dr. Sloper basically tells him what he thinks of him. You're this young guy, you don't have a job, you're not worth anything. I know what you're doing. You want my daughter's money. You want my money. And this is when Montgomery Clift's character starts to get on my nerves so much, because he says something like, we're both very similar. We both love the fine things in life. And I was rolling my eyes, because the doctor worked to get those things. And Montgomery Clift, Morris had already spent all his inheritance in Europe buying and enjoying things over in Europe, and now he's back and he's penniless, and he doesn't have a job, so he's useless except for his good looks. So the doctor says, look, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to go to Europe with Catherine, and we'll test your love. We'll see if you really love my Catherine, and we'll see if Catherine really loves you. So they go to Paris, and this is when we really start disliking Morris, because Morris just keeps on going over to the house like such a bum, and starts smoking the doctor's cigars, and just talking desperately to Lavinia, like, well, do you think she'll be with me, or do you think everything's okay? And not once did he write. I don't believe he wrote any letters to Catherine. He doesn't, and this is when we start thinking, this guy doesn't really love her. He just wants to enjoy the home and her riches. In fact, when he walks in and he looks around, he's thinking, yeah, this is my new home. I'm going to be the owner of all this. So they get back from Europe, and the doctor just seems defeated. He's kind of sick at this point, and they're gonna basically elope. But Catherine tells Morris, we love each other. We don't need my father's money. I never want to speak to him again. Come tonight, and we'll go together into the night. We'll survive off each other's love, blah blah blah. And Morris's face is just like, no, Catherine, we can't do this. Out of respect for your father or something like that, and you don't want to do this. So she says, okay, come later tonight and get me. Promise me. He promises, and he never comes to get her. And Catherine, it's so sad. She's so defeated, because she walks up the stairs with her suitcase, and it's a famous scene, because I think this is when it happens, is when she passes out. And I think she really did pass out from doing that cut so many times over and over. William Wyler made her do it over and over again until she passed out of exhaustion, and there was a lot of weight in those suitcases. So anyway, now she's had a taste of what she's had a taste of heartbreak, and she sees that he really did only want her for her money. And I missed the part where her father, before all that, had told her off, said horrible things to her, basically saying, you're nothing, like nobody would want to be with you, you're nothing, he only wants you for my money. And he just makes her feel awful, basically saying you don't even compare to your mother, and just saying things that no father should ever say to his daughter. So he burned that bridge with his daughter, so now Catherine is sort of alone in the house, but her father's dying, and at this point she's always just knitting away. And but we see eventually her father does pass away, and she becomes this very wealthy heiress. She's very wealthy, things are sort of bright, and we don't know where Morris is. We hear that I guess he went to California, but of course he has to come back. So Morris comes back years later, and he's got a mustache, so he's aged. And she hears from, and I can't stand Aunt Lavinia either, because she says, he's come back, he looks so good, and he really loves you. And at one point in the film, I remember Morris walks into the house and he says, I'm back, I'm home, like calling Catherine's home his home when he hasn't earned anything, and it's disgusting. But when he comes back, he comes in, he like is kind of aggressive, sort of wants to kiss her. We can tell she doesn't want anything with him, but she pretends, and she pretends to still be in love and says, come back later tonight and I'll marry you tonight. So you can kind of see where this is going. So he comes back later in the night thinking, yes, she does love me and I'm going to be rich. And he came all the way from California to be with her. And she locks the doors, and it ends with him pounding on the door. It's a great shot, great ending. He's pounding on the door saying to let me in. And she gets her little bit of revenge on Morris. So it was an awesome film. Olivia de Havilland was great. She did win the best actress for this. I liked Montgomery Clift. I thought he was a little bit weak, but he was still finding his groove in acting in films. And Ralph Richardson was great as well. I'm gonna give this movie a 3.5 stars. Not quite perfect for me. It's great, but it's not quite up there with something like Gaslight. So I have quite a bit of history to read for you all. So we can start with my Montgomery Clift book. The first day of shooting, Wyler recalled, quote, Monty came to me on the set and said quietly, if you ever bawl me out, don't do it in front of the crew. The director assured him he wouldn't, and the movie was subsequently made without much open disagreement, although none of the actors got along. Filmed entirely on the Paramount soundstage amidst sumptuous and tasteful sets representing New York's Washington Square of the 1850s, the entire cast behaved with the utmost politeness to each other. Quote, like we were made of glass, Monty said to Pat Collinge. On camera, on camera, Monty acted the eager, boyish lover as enthusiastically as he could, and de Havilland seemed properly smitten with him. Off camera, however, the two barely spoke, as Monty was sure Wyler was favoring her. He made his feelings known. She memorizes her lines at night and comes to work waiting for the director to tell her what to do. He wrote Sandy Campbell, "You can't get by with that in the theater, and you don't have to in the movies. Her performance is being totally shaped by Wyler." It won her the Oscar. Later, he accused Wyler of letting Miriam Hopkins upstage him and hog scenes. As for Ralph Richardson, the great actor's consummate technique intimidated him. "Can't that man make any mistakes?" he groaned. "I will not do a scene the same way each time." Let's see. As the weeks rolled by, he stopped listening to de Havilland and made up his own dialogue for her. "Because she isn't giving me what I need to respond." He's kind of a jerk, honestly, on the set of this. As far as he was concerned, most of the actors he played opposite weren't doing their parts as well as they should. So in essence, he did the parts for them. And I have a picture from the film right there. And I have another picture in one of my Olivia de Havilland biographies. Let's see here. These are some great photos right here. This is one of those movies that just looks so good in black and white. And another picture from my Paramount book right there with the doctor, her father. And now I have some really interesting things to read from this book about Olivia de Havilland. My agent persuaded, this is, I think, a quote from her. My agent persuaded Wyler to get on the train and go to New York to see the Heiress, like the play. Olivia recalled, "It was quite wonderful. Now, never will I forget the night I knew he had arrived and gone straight to the theaters to see the play. Wyler called her and told her, 'I've seen it, I like it, let's do it.'" I asked, and this is the author, because the author did a lot of interviews with Olivia. I asked Olivia if she remembered the haunting song Clift had sung, and I read that he actually learned how to play the piano a little bit, specifically for the scene in the movie. "Oh yes, The Joys of Love. Monty loved it too. He sat down at the piano and played it for me in our scene in the parlor at Washington Square." The writer says to her, "You excel at portraying women who at first appear weak, but in the end emerge as the strongest character in the film." "I certainly do," she said. Directing Olivia in The Heiress, Wyler was inexcusably rude, excluding her from his between-take chats with Richardson while she sat there like Cinderella in my little quote, "sat there like Cinderella in my little chair, nobody speaking to me. It is entirely possible Willie did that deliberately to make me feel inadequate and uninteresting." Those were the exact characteristics he needed to make Catherine both credible as a cringing wallflower and a supreme symbol of inscrutable tragedy. So... and this is what she says about William Wyler's technique and sort of stressing her out during the film. "I knew he was a Cancer," she said. "I recognized all the characteristics." So she was into astrology. "I do," and then she said this as well to someone. "I do look, during the making of it, I do look plain, don't I?" she asked. "Well, that's the idea. I only use basic makeup so it will catch the highlights and make me look clean and scrubbed. It's a relief to play this type of girl. I don't care how I look. I can concentrate on my acting." And as I mentioned, she did win Best Actress. This was her second one, I believe. And her good friend Jimmy Stewart, I think they dated previously, but her good friend Jimmy Stewart presented the Oscar to her. And she said, "Please forgive me," or he said this, "Please forgive me for not stopping to acknowledge how honored I am to be here, but I can't wait to see who won it." Opening the envelope, he announced Olivia de Havilland. She looked delicate and elegant in her billowing white organdy ball gown. And she said this, "Jimmy, Jimmy, Jimmy, how extraordinary that almost 10 years after we first met and you escorted me to the New York premiere of Gone with the Wind, it should be you who presented me with the second Oscar and escorted me off the stage at the Hollywood Pantages Theater." So she had a nice little conclusion to the Heiress. I like the film a lot. I definitely think it's one of those movies you can watch again and again and again, and you will pick up on new things. So I'll definitely be watching this one again in the future. I hope you all like the film as well. Let me know your thoughts below. I have another review coming out for you soon that I've already watched the movie, and it's kind of similar to this one. So we'll do that next review, and then we'll start getting into some Christmas movies.